they want better games to go out and buy a high-end AAA title rather than having people that are buying AAA titles saying, I can just get by with what I've got on the phone. But like I mentioned yesterday in my talk, I do think that there is great potential for the overlap there, where so much of the things that happened with Quake especially, when we looked at it as seeing the clans forming and the get-togethers and the LAN parties, and these are social efforts and these are social events that happened without any infrastructure to support them. They happened in spite of a lack of support for them. And so many things now are looked at as the social networking is the core aspect. And, I don't think that's really the right way to look at it, where you still need something at the core that the social aspects help bind together and bring people around to talk about. The network isn't the meat of it at that point. But there is great possibility for enhancing the experience that everyone gets out of a game by doing that. And it's one of these things that as a company, we don't have great, in-house talent addressing that right now. And we've had to grow, we've been forced to grow as a company in a lot of ways, where we have brought on a lot more in-house sort of cinematic aesthetic sense of things as games have taken on more of the trappings of movies. And it is likely that we'll have to take on more and more of this. And Quake Live was a step in that direction to look at how we wrap an experience around the core of the game. And it's going to be more and more important. And it's not something that I'd say we have a super firm grasp on, but it's something that we need to be keeping our eyes on as we go forward.
By the way, I think it's still up on the screen. Yeah, that slide, this was actually sent to me. This is somebody's personal collection of 8 games. And I think the guy's from Germany, and shirts and all the stuff, that this is like one guy's thing. And I was like, this is amazing. This is stuff that isn't even in our library.
Is that an Armadillo Aerospace shirt right there, John?
On the wing of the couch.
Yeah, see, you're hardcore if you have an Armadillo Aerospace shirt in your 8 collection. Yes.
Of course, if we're talking extreme people, we should mention some of like the full-body Doom tattoos that people have shown us over the years.
Yes, that is amazing.
Does that freak you out a little bit?
Yes,
it was tattoo off at the first Quick Draw yesterday. There's a guy who got Quake Live tattooed on the inside of his bicep.
Yes. We have a few guys at working on the Rage project, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get a Rage tattoo," and I was like, "Don't! You'll spend the rest of your life with a Rage tattoo."
Girls tend not to understand that as much as
yes.
guys do.
But yes,
imagine if you got like a mechanized Hitler tattoo.
Yeah, exactly. This was really cool in '92.
I'll just make him into the cyber demon now.
Great, come on up.
Hi, I'm Sam. I've done a lot of 3D work in recent years. I have a question about making the jump into game modification, game programming. And after a while of working with 3D, teaching light game design to kids through logic-based programs, what's the first logical step for a fan to move towards writing their own code, building their own games, and just starting off their own tree of your works?
So I've told a lot of people over the years kind of a couple reasonable paths. And it actually has been really rewarding to see now that 20 years have gone by. There's a steady trickle of emails that I get from people that just thank me for some bit of advice or for some inspiration to get them to the position that they're in their lives now. But the advice I've been giving for years is that if you just want to get into the industry now, some of the school programs are actually pretty decent and are useful, and we've gotten some good people there. That wasn't the case many years ago. But if you really want to become a serious programmer, on the one hand, I recommend a two-pronged direction where it is important to be able to work in the massive code bases, because that's what you will do day to day. You will not be sitting down and writing a brand new engine if you're working in the games industry in almost all cases. You will be slogging through a couple million lines of code written by dozens of other developers, many of whom you may be significantly better than, but you still have to live with the code that they're producing. That's reality. There is a huge mess of code that you have to deal with, and you have to be good at it. And the skills of working in that are not necessarily the same as going and writing a tiny cool demo. But I do also recommend that people go back to the absolute basics. And you should go to the classic games. You should look at and write and implement Space Invaders, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers, run through the classic history of games. We have far better development tools. It doesn't take as long to implement these things as it took to originally develop them. But I see a lot of people that don't have that full scope of knowledge there, that they may know how to go ahead and write Java code or work on a particular game mod or something, but there are a lot of important lessons you get from going through the whole process on a much smaller scale and trying to distill out what's really important in games. Because so much is wrapped around games now that it is easy to lose sight of what the core and the essence of everything is supposed to be. And a lot of the classic games where you didn't have the option of doing all the stuff around it were forced to have very good distillations of sort of core value there. And I do think that it would be nice if we had more time. I'm not promising, but I'm tempting myself with the ability that I may spend, I may take a week off and write, a new Commander Keen style game or something like that. We can't take something like that to production, but I need to refresh that for myself about going back to the small games and running through everything. And when we look at interviewing people and hiring people, the most important thing is being able to have produced a variety of things. Someone that has a web page with 10 different projects that they took through, 5 of which are on the App Store or something, that says a lot more about someone than what they did in college, where they went, what their class projects were, or even the fact that they worked as a gameplay program, a junior gameplay programmer on some other major title. It is more of a sink or swim environment than a lot of places, and that's not our best characteristic, but it is kind of the way it is. We do best with people that we can expect to go out and blaze their own trail to usefulness. But the combination of giant projects and micro projects, I think, is a really valuable way to kind of grow as a developer.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm from Dallas here. I'm a big fan of the Doom series, and I always love the simplicity of it. It's Hell taking over the military base, and I never feel bad about annihilating all the minions of Hell, and it's a good way to not feel anything about it. But I noticed, like with the movie, there was no Hell, and the religious iconography kind of goes away as we move forward. How important is it to keep with that, and do you want to distance from it in video games as it goes around, or?
That's you.
All right, let me see if I can handle that without saying too much about Doom. So,
it's a sneaky question.
It is a sneaky question. So, very clever.
+1 for cleverness.
I guess the thing is we're not worried about having a game that really features a lot about Hell, and I think that's a centerpiece of the Doom universe, and so I think that's not going to be. If anybody's concerned about that, that's certainly not a concern to have anymore. So. Anything to add to that?
So there was an aspect of when we were 20-year-old developers on there was some aspect of offending the easily offended was enjoyable. There was tweaking our noses at fundamentalists and all of that. That's, we are past that as, you get older, and that's just not the fun thing.
We're not past that at all. Honestly, that's John doesn't know. We're that's right up our alley, John. I'm sorry.
Maybe not quite so blatant as the old Office, where it was a sweet 666, and then you open the door and like Satan is overlooking Donna's shoulders to everybody who came into the office.
I don't know how people will take this. I don't know if I should actually say this, but when I first moved into the neighborhood I've been in now for 20 years, this kid comes across the street. We had just released Doom, and he said, "Is it true that you guys sacrifice goats?"
Yes. All hail Lothar.
But it is true that my take on Doom, and I was disappointed that the movie did exercise all of the religious element of that, because I do think it is the fundamental characteristic of Doom that it is Marines against demons, and it is very explicitly supposed to be. You're not supposed to feel bad at all. You are not supposed to have any mixed feelings about mowing down the demons on there. There is no moral question or shady ground here. It's a clear and pristine and pure aspect of it, and I think that is important to Doom. It's not just monsters or aliens. It is demons from the pits of hell, and they are the worst thing imaginable. And while this was all very iconic in the early bathroom tile pixel days of the original, that's certainly what I think is important to the essence of it.
And we have to end it there.
Okay.
But even with that is it was always amazing to me that we still caught flack from religious groups about a game where you pound demons all along, as if we were, trying to endorse
They're not
the
your friends
demonization.
in the game.
Right. It's like how much you kill them.
We got a letter after writing, because back in the shareware days, we'd get a lot of letters coming in, and people would order the game and send a check, and they'd write a letter to us. And one of the letters, they actually misspelled angels and spelled it angles. But they said we're worried about this because angles are real. But P.S. we love the chainsaw. We're doing something right.
We do sort of miss the letters. It was interesting in the shareware days before all online payments and distributions and boxes on the shelves. We just got boxes and boxes of letters from the people that loved Commander Keen. I think we still have our first order up on the wall someplace for the very first thing that came in for an id product. But there were a lot of gems, and it's interesting where some of the crazy mails that you'd think we would get more of that through email, but I guess there's an interesting psychological aspect to that.
Or maybe
because
you're
we got
just
some
protected
really
from it now.
crazy.
Yes, we have a crazy guy, John Filter. Yes.
Well, that's the email. You can actually respond to them relatively conveniently. You don't actually have to write down something and figure out where it came from and all of that.
Yes. Actually, these pictures remind me of somebody that is very, very important to the 20 years of it. We have Donna Jackson there, as you can see her up there. Yes, she really should be up here with us. And her story and how she came to id is also very good. So, again, I want to shout out to Donna Jackson for helping
Donna
us
here?
along.
Yeah.
Can we get the short version of the story?
Oh, well, do you want me to tell it?
What?
How Donna's... Well, yeah, I'll tell it. Are you here, Donna? Is she here? Oh, no, good. If I mess it up, it's okay. So Donna, and correct me if I'm wrong, Donna worked for, this is before my time, she worked for a temp agency. Yeah. Yes, and Jay Wilbur just needed some help answering the phones and things, and so he called the temp agency and said, hey, can you send someone down? And, Donna said she showed up, and, she sat down at the desk, and Jay told her about, what to do, and she's like, what are these boys doing? These boys are kind of crazy. And she told me that she called the temp agency and said, listen, I'm out of here. I'm in here for a day, and then you need to send me someplace else. And then as the day went on, Donna, saw, all the boys, and, she's always had brothers growing up and sons, and she came to the realization that she really needed to stay and help these